an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 96 and 97. In these episodes, the crew is crossing the desert with Vivi, and Vivi is not informing people of the things that they need to be informed of. And it's all very cute and everything and very funny, but also, Vivi, what the fuck? Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Bernadette for commissioning this episode. Bernadette was not able to stay with us, but she came by to say hi. So delighted to have you and hope that you're enjoying this episode once you actually get a chance to listen to it. So these two episodes were really, really fun. I enjoyed these a lot. They were full of surprises. And there is one particular part. Owen was napping, and I started laughing so hard and so loudly in the living room that I woke him up from his nap in the bedroom. So here we go. We're going to talk about this. I just really... All right. So the start of this episode, we're still in the midst of the ocean. We get a little bit of like the hanging out with the crew sort of downtime that I was saying I really enjoy. But we start out in Alabasta in a sort of like, I don't want to say crisis because it feels almost like this is something that happens fairly often. Basically, the king of Alabasta is getting marched on by a small group of villagers. And what I find so funny about this is that there is this moment, everything is done in a very sort of close shot. You see the villagers coming up, the drama of their approach and the way that it's framed makes it look like there's dozens of them at least. And the guards come down and stop them and make it look like they are guarding the entrance and completely blocking their way. But then when like the camera pulls out, so to speak, you see that there's only like 8 villagers, and the like staircase that these guards are blocking is actually like 6 times the width that it looked like, and they could easily just like go around the guards if they distracted them enough with some of the people that they've got with them. It was just really funny to me. It looks so much more intense. And then when the camera pulls back, the whole thing feels so much sillier and so much less like worrying. Because what they're talking about here is that the king is responsible for the fact that they are all starving to death. This woman has a baby that's crying, and she's just like, you know, I'm sure that they have milk inside the palace. Let us in. And the king comes out, and the people are saying some angry shit to him. And he essentially just is like, yeah, you have every right to be pissed at me. I have inflicted this suffering on you because of my own weakness. And it's the sort of thing he says, like, and for that I apologize. And I was like, I really understand what you're going for here, but also just saying I apologize. I'm like, dude, all I can do now is share your suffering as if it were my own as well. And he invites them all inside to share your qualms, is what the subtitles say. I feel that's probably not what is actually said. If I'm like, I've mentioned this before, but the subtitles, when I'm reading them to recount to you all what's happening in the scene, those subtitles never say the same thing that I heard when I watched the episode because of the weird like disconnect between that and the dubs. So I'm sure he says something like, come inside and share your woes with me or something. Anyway, everybody is taken very off guard by how like much responsibility he is taking and how saddened he clearly is by the state of things. And we get a shot of a handful of green powder, which we've seen before, and then him in silhouette talking to Vivi and her saying, clearly somebody is setting you up. But we don't find out until later exactly what was going on here. What it turns out was happening, somebody, and I really like this, by the way, there is this whole conspiracy going on with stealing the rainwater that should be going to like an adjoining kingdom. And I thought this was actually really smart. So the powder that Luffy ate that's like illegal, that causes rain, it's not like it causes rain with no repercussions of any kind. What it does is it accelerates the maturation of clouds so that they begin to rain sooner than they ordinarily would. Which means that an area that normally gets a lot of rainfall, if you mature all of the clouds that normally would rain on them before they get to them, you get all of the rain and they don't get any. So essentially, Alabasta looks like it was stealing water from these people. And there's this big moment of like an accident in the middle of like the town where there are some people who are claiming very loudly that we're heading to the king of Alabasta. This is an exclusive and very top secret delivery to him. And it breaks open and it's full of this powder that everybody knows what it is. And it looks like the king is the one who has been doing all of this. Obviously it's not, but it's convincingly done. You know, this is the sort of thing that like, if somebody wanted to like set it up that, oh, look, there was a weird detour of this shipment of the vaccine. And it turns out that these vaccines contain some like, you know, fucking deadly ingredient, but they don't want to tell you about that. But we found, like, just try and tell people that that's a setup and those vaccines aren't real, or that wasn't. Y'all know. All you have to do is plant the idea. Like, this entire charade in the street with the cart turning over and all of the powder spilling out was probably not even totally necessary, because people are so easy to get thinking about like conspiracy theories that aren't there. I feel like it seems easier these days than it probably might have been, but nevertheless, I maintain this probably could have worked anyway. So yeah, I have no trouble believing that people fell for this hook, line, and sinker. But we are not quite there yet. So then this is when we go back to the boat and everybody is just hanging out. We've got Sanji getting frustrated with Luffy and Usopp, who are dicking around, eating the food. He asks for their help in like doing the dishes. And when he looks over, they're washing all of the dishes in mop water. Y'all, I love my husband. I do. And I am not trying to say the man would wash dishes in mop water. But what I am saying is that sometimes he makes what seem to me equally mystifying decisions like this. And I will genuinely just be like, what possessed you to thinking that was the way to do this. I just felt for Sanji in this moment because, like, when you are the one person who is doing the cooking for an entire group of people, it's a lot. Cooking is a huge amount of work. And every time that he has cooked and Luffy eats all the food, or Luffy sneaks in and eats all of the ingredients before they're even cooked, or he's got this huge mess to deal with and nobody's helping him, there's always another scenario that I'm like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that too. Sanji, he needs like a first mate. He needs somebody as an assistant in that kitchen. Rudolph, I swear to God, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, Chopper. That was deeply offensive. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to put you into that stereotype. You don't even have a red nose. Your nose is blue. Chopper, apologies. I was going to say, Chopper might be a good assistant because Chopper is used to being ordered around. And, like, honestly, I could see Chopper not really knowing what to do when left to his own devices. Like, when you are somebody who has always bent to authority, you can either go in two directions. You become incredibly defiant and never want to bow to authority again, or authority feels comforting, and there is a certain familiarity to being told what to do. And I personally am somebody who finds comfort in authority. As I get older, it's harder and harder to find that comfort, though, because so many people are incompetent that I have just gotten very acutely aware of how little of the time someone telling you what to do is actually what you should be doing. But it was hugely comforting to me at one time in my life to believe that people in authority over me knew what the fuck they were talking about. And so that's a hard thing to break. And I really feel like Chopper seems like the type who would have a hard time breaking that too. So what I'm saying is, Chopper, you should be Sanji's sous chef. Otherwise, what's Chopper doing? He's out here laying out in the sun, enjoying the breeze of Zoro weightlifting and like moving back and forth past him, blowing the breeze onto him. Which, like, I'm not mad at. I can certainly understand, one, enjoying laying in the sun with a light breeze playing off you, and two, doing that with the view of Zoro weightlifting right in front of you. I mean, that does sound pretty ideal, but I'm assuming that Chopper is not interested in Zoro. So, you know, then you just have that one perk, and I feel like otherwise, maybe that could work. Anyway, so, we get this mission that Vivi gives to, I'm gonna mention this, guys. So I've been calling the duck Karoo. And when I was listening to the dub today, it sounds like she's saying Karoo, like with a D. And I feel like I can't, like, do you guys, is that how I should say it? Because it's spelled with an R, but it sounds like they say it with a D almost. Karoo. It's almost as if they're saying the word, but with like a Spanish accent. Does that make sense? So yeah, I wasn't really sure whether or not I've been saying it wrong the whole time or if the dub is being weird about it. I'm interested in your feedback on that. But anyway, she says, I have an important task for him. And he goes and sticks his head out like, what? And she says, I want you to go to the palace on your own and deliver this letter to my father. I've written down everything Igaram and I learned about Crocodile and Baroque Works' schemes, and that I've returned to Alabasta alive with supportive friends. I love that when she says that, we get like the slow pan across everybody. and their smiling faces. Can you do it? You have to cross the desert on your own. And she tucks it in there and says, to make sure basically to stay hydrated and be really careful. And as she watches Karoo running away, Karoo stops and like chugs a bunch of water and goes for it. And it does not, to me, look like quite enough water. I'm just saying. But this for me this feels like a really stupid idea, right, guys? Am I alone in this? I feel like, okay, look, Karoo, you're adorable. I'm not trying to act like I don't think you're super cute. Your competence is the only thing I question. And I don't even mean that as an insult so much as like you're being sent to deliver a message and you are alone. And as far as we have seen, not really a fighter. Who is supposed to protect you? I don't see Karoo protecting himself. I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. So basically what she has done is she has sent incredibly sensitive information out into the world to be captured by literally anybody who happens across this extremely vulnerable, cowardly duck. And again, I'm not trying to throw shade. I understand, whenever I call a character cowardly, I would really like it to be understood that I do not claim I would be braver than them in any given scenario. You all know I have a very realistic outlook on my own attitudes in certain situations. Were she to give the message to me to deliver, it would be no safer than it is with Karoo. I'm not trying to shit on Karoo. I'm shitting on Vivi. It's a bad decision. There is no reason to do this. You are giving the enemy the upper hand if they get a hold of this. And if your father gets it first, this is my question, genuine question. She believes that there has been a setup this entire time to frame her father, to make it look like he was stealing water from this neighboring country, which I don't remember the name of it. If you guys want to remind me which place Alabasta was stealing water from, feel free. You believe that he was framed and that there is like somebody trying to infiltrate. If they have been sort of like spying or interfering with the inner workings of things, how do you not think that they would definitely get a hold of any message that was being sent? That seems like one of the only things that, I always hate it when people do the you had one job, but genuinely, if you are trying to spy on and spy on a king, frame him for things, take him down from the inside, and sow unrest, keeping apprised of all of his communications is priority number one. What is she thinking by doing this? And I will, guys, if it turns out that this is nothing and Karoo just manages to deliver this message and there's no problem, I will eat my words. Fine. But this feels like the sort of thing that is meant to look like Vivi is a very dedicated daughter who cares about the situation in her kingdom. And instead it comes across as a child who doesn't know how the world works, cosplaying as a major player when they actually don't know what the fuck is going on. So it's, to me, we keep being told that we're supposed to see Vivi as a leader, and I don't buy it at all. Sorry, Vivi. And guys, the next episode does not let me just say that impression is not assisted in the next episode. So she sends Karoo off with this message. It just, for me, it feels like really clear what's going to happen here. And then we have the scene with Crocodile. If you build cities atop the sandy earth that exists there for thousands of years, the desert will always be filled with the stench of death. From its very inception, this land has embraced the shadow of death. Again, guys, these subtitles are not what they actually say. So this woman comes up and tells him that a bunch of ships with billions on them were decimated and they've lost a bunch of people. I don't know that we haven't seen this woman before, have we? With the really angular face. She is like, she feels vaguely familiar, and I can't tell if that's just me, but he essentially is like, you know what? That's an acceptable loss. We have a bigger plan, and losing those people is not going to be any delay for me. But if anybody who would defy me appears here, crush them. And she says, will do. I've already sent the lizard runners to contact the others. And we get the lizard runners, everybody. Can I tell you how utterly delighted I am by the juxtaposition of this scene with these two very serious bad guys gazing thoughtfully out a window, one wearing a giant fur coat like a fucking mob boss, and the other one looking like she's some sort of like Russian, like Black Widow spy. And then we cut to these pink frilled lizards with little yellow bow ties and what look like 1920s style striped bathing costumes and little notes tied around their necks. Guys, this show is just so great. Why are they wearing this? What is that? I don't understand. Oh, I truly don't. Anyway, so yeah, and it's just said in this incredibly matter-of-fact way that like, oh yeah, I sent the lizard runners, and we see this incredible moment, and we cut back to him back at the window saying, excellent, as he like drops the curtain back into place and the whole room is plunged into darkness again. And it's just so, guys, I can't. The lizard runners. Oh yes. The lizard runners, of course. How could I forget? Anyway, okay. So, then we get one of my other favorite moments where the ship is pulling up to the shore and everybody is getting off. And Sanji sees that Nami and Vivi are no longer in their dancers' outfits. And he is so sad. And he falls on the deck and he just rolls around. And it does not say this in the subtitles, but in the actual dub, he just says, but those outfits were so sexy. And he's just rolling in place on the deck. I love it. If you had told me how entertaining Sanji being constantly smitten with every woman who crosses his path would be to me, I don't think I would have believed you. But the show makes him so pitiful with it that it doesn't feel as creepy as I think it would otherwise. Like, it just feels so, this guy, you know? I don't know if that's just because I know who Sanji is, and he seems like, you know, overall a pretty decent dude, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because of that. But honestly, him on the ground rolling in like a weird circle, talking about how sad he is that they're not in their sexy outfits anymore, just really hit for me. It worked. So this is when we get these, we have a sort of face-off here with these beings that look like a turtle shell wrapped around a seal. And Vivi says they're kung fu dugongs. And essentially, you have to beat them in a fight, or else they won't let you land on the island. And Usopp goes and gives it a shot and gets immediately fucking shredded. And so Luffy goes in and absolutely dominates, because of course he does. And these dugongs are so delighted by him. He essentially has like a dugong army now behind him. And they can't come with them across the desert because they're water creatures. But it seems very much to me like this is Chekhov's dugong army, right? Like we are going to come back to them at some point. They are going to be crucial to helping our guys out, and our enemies will be led right into the midst of them. I am very here for it. I can't wait to see it. They are so cute. They look like Pokemon. You know, like the simplicity of how they're drawn, but the weird combination of like multiple animal elements. They look like a Pokemon character design. And I am just so delighted with the way that they worship Luffy right away. Like they look at him and there's like the star animation in their eyes. It's so good, y'all. It's so good. Kyle says, dugongs are real animals, by the way, related to the manatee. Yes, I did know that. Not kung fu dugongs, but nevertheless. So yeah, this is really a great start to things on this island. And I do like, too, that both Vivi and Nami can't bear to, like, tell them that they have to stay. They don't know what they're going to do because they're so cute. And eventually it falls to Chopper to like convince them to stay and wait for them by giving them food. So this is when they begin to cross through the desert, and they come across several different places where there used to be towns. Like, it was never, you know, all covered in green. It was never like this lush kind of paradise. People lived here. There were crops being grown. Things were manageable. And now, absolutely nothing is left. Like, there is sand up to, like, covering up half of the buildings. They are crumpled, and there is, like, nothing alive left. They even come across some skeletons at one point, which really makes Vivi completely, like, lose her shit, basically. Like, these people did not deserve this. Alubarna is the name of the place that actually had water. Okay. But yeah, it's pretty fun to see the rain coming down here and how excited everybody is about it, too. It's like, you know, they do a good job of making it feel sad that this isn't working. At first, the people called it the King's Miracle with the rain. And That also rang really true to me. People being really happy about something and then it turning the corner. And that is the thing everybody hates you for. I also love how Luffy here, he tells them that he's eaten some of this powder before and they don't believe him. And he has to like be like, I'm not lying. Why would I even lie about that? So she says, around the same time, a massive amount of dance powder was found inside the palace. They even had people working inside, which again, then why are you sending messages? This was a canal that used to bring water in from the Sandora River. Someone destroyed the canal too. With its canal gone, the city of Green could no longer secure water. And rain never came. So yeah, I mean, this is like a real thing. Drought is a fucking serious problem that we are going to begin facing down more and more with climate change. But yeah, this whole thing leads to infighting for water and people abandoning the city because there's no way to survive. And as she's telling the story, we pan from face to face and everybody looking very solemn. And she says, and then eventually the city withered away. And the whole vibe here is like, I want so much to like, it's not that I don't feel for Vivi. It's just that because I find her to be less competent than I was hoping, when she's telling these stories, I am distracted by that. Does that make sense? This is a problem that I run into sometimes with friends also. I have friends whom I love, but whom I know frequently misinterpret things. I've watched it happen. And so they will tell me their version of something that happened. And I don't feel as invested because I don't completely trust that the way they're saying it went down is actually how it went down. Does that make sense? And then there are people whom I implicitly trust. I know for a fact that what they are saying to me is how it like Rashawn, she tells me what happened at work today, and I like 100% trust that she's telling me exactly what the fuck happened. So I feel like that's sort of what's going on with me with Vivi, is just the fact that I'm like, look, I trust that what you're telling me actually is what happened because the show needs me to know the facts of the situation. But were I to be like talking to you in person and you were telling me this, I don't think I would entirely trust your version of this story. And I would be very much wondering if your dad was in fact responsible. Because of course with Vivi, everything is a conspiracy and her father's totally innocent and it just happens to be a bunch of bad actors who have infiltrated the castle. Okay. I mean, I would love to think that you're right about that because it sucks for a parent to like completely let you down. And it's not like I don't have sympathy for that, but also I don't think I would totally buy that her dad is innocent. You know, like things have, if there's anything that growing older has taught me, it is that those who we think are beyond reproach are often the ones who are doing the most fucked up shit because they know you will not suspect them of it. So that's all I'm saying. So yeah, this is when we stumble across the skeleton. What did my father and what did the citizens of this country ever do? These people worked so hard to live. Being natives of a desert land who were forced to fight with nature, and he's destroyed their lives. What gives him the right to do that? And we get this weird, she says, all the while, as one of the 7 warlords pretends to be a hero of the people. And we get the flashback of Crocodile defeating this guy and the scene that we had, I think it was last episode, where he takes down that hook hand guy and then is like, everybody is cheering him on as if he's like a hero of the people when in fact he's going to cash in this dude's head for bounty. So at this point, basically everybody is like, they are emotionally moved to help Vivi in a way, like they were already on board because they like her and care about her and they're on her side. But it's clearly different now that they have seen the destruction that is in the wake of these people. So next episode, we have everybody they are tramping across the desert and dying of heat, dying of thirst. They're all having a really hard time. And Luffy, of course, being one of the worst of them because he's never good with not eating. Vivi being the one exception because she's used to the desert. So this is not really bothering her at all. And eventually they make camp and everybody starts to freeze. And this is a thing she mentions, that there's not that much cloud cover. So there's nothing to sort of insulate them at night and hold the heat down, just as there is nothing to block them off from the sun during the day. And if you've ever been in a desert atmosphere from day to night, you know how real this is. And it's incredibly disorienting. I have experienced it here in Texas a little, but I don't live very far south in Texas. So I experienced this when I was visiting 4 hours like south of me. I can't remember the name of the town, but we went to the coast for a little vacation, and it was absolutely scalding during the day. And then at night, the temperature dropped and I was just like, holy shit. And it was the sort of thing where I had not packed adequately to deal with both things. And you just feel like you are in two totally different places at any given time of day. It's a really weird thing. But anyway, none of these people, other than Vivi, have experience with being in a desert. So they're not ready for any of the things that they wind up coming across. So there are a couple different things that happen here. First, we have Luffy, and this is a fun bit. What the show does is they have a slowly escalating series of dangers that Vivi is like, I should have mentioned this sooner. And that keeps being like her sort of her tagline throughout this episode is, I should have said something about this sooner. And it goes from things that are genuine threats in real deserts to eventually absurd shit that doesn't make any sense. So the first thing is Luffy finds a scorpion and he thinks it's a shrimp, which honestly, that's not a terrible guess. I would think that he would expect it to be a lobster, but I guess the size. Vivi wakes up and she sees it and it's just like, what the fuck? And I love Luffy's asking if it's edible. Are they? He eventually tosses it, but because she calls it poisonous. Is it? Because, you know, the difference is poisonous is you die if you eat it. Venomous is you die if it eats you or bites you. So she calls it poisonous in this dub, or in the subtitle, I should say. Is it though? Like, do they have like a poison sack where if you took that out and then you decided to like put it on a stick and roast it over the fire, would it be actually edible? Or is the meat of a scorpion also toxic? I'm curious about that, just for reasons. Like, I'm never going to eat a scorpion. Thank you very much. Well, I shouldn't speak too soon. Who knows what's going to happen in the water wars in the future. But anyway, so eventually he just tosses it and he's so casual about it. I love he tries to just hand it to Usopp. And I love that it doesn't bite him or sting him, I should say, because there is something about a person who handles something with such like casual confidence that often they do get away with not being harmed by the thing because they are so relaxed. And if you tense up, that's what sort of makes the animal begin to freak out. And at this point, they see this cloud coming towards them and again, Vivi realizes that she hasn't warned them about sandstorms. Sorry, any 90s kids out there, you know what I was doing there. And if you don't get it, I'm really sorry. Just Google sandstorm techno, and that's that. So the sandstorm comes for them, and it's a weird, the way the show chooses to handle it is they basically cut from the sandstorm, like barreling over them, to the morning when everybody wakes up buried in sand. And the implication is sort of supposed to be, I think, that they like were all cuddled up under the sand, which kept them warm, and they just slept pretty cozily after all, which I thought was sort of a weird way to handle it after framing it like it's such a danger to have it be actually not a problem for them. The only thing is that they lose their tents, I think, because we see them like completely get torn up. But anyway, they continue on their way. There is this ridiculous bit where Luffy wants to like rock, paper, scissors for whoever has to like carry all of the shit. And he doesn't realize like the way that he has set it up. So he wins the rock, paper, scissors, but that is what means that he has to carry everything. And it turns out to have been an extremely bad idea to let Luffy manage the luggage. Guys, here comes the thing that made me laugh so hard. I just could not stop laughing. So he comes across like past this weird sort of, what's the word I want? It's almost like a couple of rock formations so that nobody can see them except for him. There's all these birds that look sort of like herons, and they are on their backs, very pitiful. Their necks are drooping. Their eyes are rolling back in their heads. And Luffy is like, oh no, I'm going to get you a doctor. Hold on. And he goes and gets Chopper, who is like immediately ready. Yeah, let's go help some birds. And Vivi says, birds? Wait, Luffy, I don't think these birds are what they look like. And he stops and turns around, and the thing that had all of their shit on it that he was pulling is completely empty. And Luffy still is in denial over the fact that the birds could have taken this stuff. And this is when Vivi says, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned it earlier. Warusagi birds are desert bandits that trick travelers and steal their belongings. And again, at one point earlier, Usopp yells at Luffy for lying. And here again, Usopp is mad at these birds for faking it. Like he keeps being the guy that's outraged at dishonesty. It's great. I really do enjoy that. So at this point, Luffy is very defensive, basically. Like, well, they outwitted me. What was I supposed to do? To which Sanji is like, you just admitted that you're stupider than a bird. So I don't think that would be the defense that you want to go with. And they're like talking about what they're going to do because now they have to travel across the desert and they don't have any food or water left. And here comes this bit, guys. I swear to God, I'm about to get to it in the animation, and I wish so much that I could screen share with y'all, because what we have is Luffy and Sanji in the midst of like wrestling and fighting each other, and they get distracted in the middle of the fight by these birds who are drinking their water, wearing the backpacks, and they have the smuggest expression on their faces. I swear to God, you guys, the expression on this bird's face sent me careening. I could not handle it. It was so unexpected. Like, it was already funny that birds faked being sick to trick travelers. That's already an amazing idea. But then for them to stand there and fucking stunt on the people that they just stole from, and like wearing the little backpacks and walking away, and then Luffy starts to chase them. And the expression as the camera pulls out as they're being chased is just this incredibly like, do you see this fucking guy? Like, they have no concern that Luffy's going to catch up with them and do anything to them. They are not afraid of him at all. And honestly, I would have thought that he'd be a little bit more effective in this situation than he turns out to be, because they do get away almost entirely. And it is just, honestly, this is one of the funniest things the show has ever done, in my opinion. It's such a weird thing. So, as he's running after them, these huge sort of, what are they called? Venus flytrap plants come up out of the ground and snap Luffy up. And it looks like he got caught, and it looks like it goes underground. But then he like breaks it off at the stem, and he comes up out of the sand and is like, "Oh shit, that's kind of cool." And he turns, and there is a camel in one of the other Venus flytraps, struggling to keep it open because it's trying to get out. What an inspired idea. It turns out, as we find out later, to be the same camel that helped Chopper to escape in the previous episodes. And this camel is basically like, they call it a pervert camel in the dub, because he doesn't let males ride on his back. It's only ladies that are allowed, which is such a weird thing to do. But honestly, I'm really not mad about it. But what we wind up getting is Nami and Vivi jumping on its back, and the thing just goes tearing off across the desert, while Nami basically like calls over her shoulder, "I hope you guys find your way there." You know, she says something like, "If you don't keep up, then you won't be able to get there alive." And it's just another moment of Nami just not really giving a shit that she's making things super hard for other people, but in a way that I find so much more entertaining than I do when it's Luffy. Because Luffy, it's pure thoughtlessness. With Luffy, it's like an accidental thing because he just genuinely doesn't think about other people. With Nami, it's purposeful, which I can respect. I find that very funny. She's just like, "Yeah, I'll definitely catch a ride on this adorable camel that I'm naming Eyelashes." By the way, is that the name in Japanese? Because that's what the dub said. It sounded like she said eyelashes. I could be wrong about that, but I think it sounded like she said eyelashes. I should mention that in the midst of all of this, we have this moment. Ace is still here, and he is sort of like feeling weirdly superfluous in all of this. It feels like what he's here for is to keep everybody from just completely abandoning and turning on his brother because he is so difficult to deal with, that the author felt like, I need somebody to remind them of why they keep Luffy around, even though he's a massive cramp in the balls. So we've got them talking about how, like, he runs off all the time, even though he has no sense of direction. He isn't he going to have a difficult time out there not eating anything? He's a lost cause. And Ace says something like, apologize. He apologizes on his brother's behalf for his ineptness. And I was just sort of like, I don't really understand what it is that Ace is here for at this point. If that's the only function that he's serving, that's a waste of a very fun character. But otherwise, like, what's going on? And he is the one that later on suggests that there might be another reason for Crocodile to be doing what he's doing, because, like, essentially what Vivi is saying is that he wants to, like, take over the kingdom. And I believe that Ace is the one who is just like, why would a pirate want to do that, though? Like, that isn't what pirates do or want, and that seems really weird. And honestly, it's the kind of thing where I'm like, it might seem really weird if I were using real world logic on this, but it doesn't feel any weirder than the fishmen who wanted to take over a whole island of people and rule it. You know, I don't know. I mean, I guess the fishmen had, like, their superiority complex and wanting to take over the entire human race, which maybe he's asserting that Crocodile doesn't feel that way. All right, fair. Oh my God. And I almost forgot about the fucking Sandora Dragon. We get two, because yet again, Vivi forgets to mention that they hunt in pairs. So we have the one that is chasing Luffy as he absolutely fucking books it on Camelback. And what I love about this so much is Zoro and Sanji stepping up and being like, hey buddy, do you need some help with this? And they take down this lizard in, like, literally, it's one strike per person. And this thing drops dead. And I think Nami is the one who says, like, you know, they always do this. They make it look so easy that I almost feel sorry for the monster. Honestly, same. And they're there savoring their victory. I love Usopp being like, you didn't have to take it that far. But then one pops up from behind them because, yet again, Vivi forgot to mention. And the way we deal with this one is that Ace jumps in its mouth and basically, like, blows it up from the inside. Again, taking things very far, but they have lots of meat to eat now. So yeah, that is, they use the hot rocks that are baking in the sun as natural frying pans, is the way that Sanji says it. And all I could think about was how much sand would be in that meat if you just pressed it against a rock in the middle of the desert. Have you guys ever bitten into something that had sand on it? It is the literal worst sensation. I swear to God. Like, anything that makes something weird, like a weird texture touch your teeth, is always really awful. And yeah, the idea of, like, eating something that's been roasted on, like, a sandy, no, I don't think so. And this is the moment where the camel looks down and recognizes Chopper, and it's really adorable. And then they, like, there's this weird bit where, because the camel refuses to hold a dude, they beat the shit out of it. It does not work. The camel doesn't change his mind. Just thought I should mention that. Sticks to his guns. But they do have him with a bloody nose and a like lump over one eye because he got beaten up, which is just a weird thing to have our guys do. So yeah, Vivi and Nami get on his back, take off at a run, and Nami just really yells over her shoulder that she hopes they can keep up. Best of luck to you. And we get one last moment in this episode of we look out over the desert, and then all of a sudden we're looking at what looks like the prow of a ship again. And there are two people, a really big dude who's wrapped up in what looks like bandages, but I can't tell if it's bandages or if it's just like the clothing he's wearing, and a tiny woman with a little bun on her head. And we just see them from far off, indistinct. End of episode. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. It's a weird way, like, this show introduces people that way sometimes, I guess, but we usually get at least, like, a couple of words from somebody in the scene. It's usually not just, here's a picture of them, and now nothing. You know, well, if we don't have words or actual dialogue, we'll see them doing something, you know, like, for example, the weird dude on Usopp's island who moonwalked everywhere. We got to see that weirdo moonwalking for a minute, and it gave us some idea of just the strangeness of what he was going to be like. But these people, we just see them like standing on the mast of a ship, and there's no context at all. How close are they to this island? Are they already here? Like, I don't really get what that was in terms of an intro, but the next two episodes, I think, are fillers. If I remember correctly, what Florian gave me for information. So they may just be part of that next arc. Oh yeah. Gabriella says, reminder to us all, next two episodes are filler and we're skipping them. Yeah. So I almost actually watched them this afternoon, but I wound up not having time after all, but I will definitely still be watching them. Just FYI, everybody. So yeah, maybe that's all they are, but it struck me as like not totally characteristic of how this show handles people usually. All right, I am going to wrap up, but thank you again very much to Bernadette for commissioning this episode. Bernadette is still here, despite having said that she was going to go to sleep. She is a dirty liar. Usopp would be disgusted, Bernadette. But yeah, and guys, the next episode I'm recording is the first episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, so do not miss it. It was a pretty wild first episode. I was enjoying myself a great deal. So hopefully I will see you guys there, and until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.